And on that one side, you can see on the
Yeah. Oh, and then, yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, yeah, this is what's happening. This is what happens.
My apologies.
No, we're fine.
Please don't take it out on these poor guys.
And when we do,
We'll see.
leaderboard on the right. and the far end
Okay,
of
do
the
you all
bottom,
know each other? You know Justin from Five Star?
Good to meet you.
set of sketches,
David's,
just to show
I guess you
you
worked for a while in the Bay Area. and
Yeah, work in finance, investment management, and then I'm an angel, so.
Pleasure to meet you.
Brooke is from Annetta Ventures.
Yeah, but you have to come close.
And recently joined, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
I'm just
GEW
I'm
is
the
still looking
uncle
for
at
steady
Thanksgiving,
work.
nobody wants.
And Jesse is entrepreneur in residence here at Carlsen. We'll get everybody going here. All right. We don't bite. You can actually sit closer if you want to.
Where's Diane?
She had trouble getting the box out of her car, so I sent her and Steve to get it.
Okay.
So he's the Sherpa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to CleanStart's Spotlight Investor Night. I'm going to ask more people to try to fill in the center here, if you can. So that way, when people present, they can feel like they're talking to real people, not just chairs. Well, I tried.
Come on. Very hard.
The old college guy.
All right. I am Thomas Hall, Executive Director of CleanStart. And I'm going to welcome you guys tonight, introduce our judges, and then we're going to hear from 5 amazing startups from the Sacramento area and hear about what they're working on. And then our judge panel here, or I guess it's more feedback panel, is going to give them feedback on their pitches. What we're really hoping to do is that the companies can hear about how they can improve their pitches, how they can better connect with the people that they're talking to. Because one of the things that is way too easy to do, probably when you're pitching, is make a mistake that excludes you from something. So if you go and talk to investors right now, and a lot of times they're not going to give you money right away. It's going to be over time, but you know what they will give you? Advice, connections, other people that you can reach out to. So you want to make sure that you do a good enough pitch that you don't send them running. That's one hell of a pep talk.
Here comes the technological demonstration.
All right, first, our Clean Tech Night, or our Clean Tech Spotlight event is brought to you by SMUD and Fresno State, the WET Center. They are the major funders of CleanStart and help us put on this program. Additionally, we are supported here by our lovely guest, or our lovely host, the Carlsen Center. And I'm actually going to give Jesse, the Carlsen Center's entrepreneur in residence, a minute to talk about the Carlsen Center.
I don't know that I need a minute. Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Jessie Becker-Alexander. I'm the entrepreneur, one of 2 entrepreneurs in residence here at the Carlsen Center. The Carlsen Center serves the greater Sacramento region. We are a hub for all things innovation and entrepreneurship here in Sacramento. You walk through our doors and we will connect you to whoever you need to be connected to in the region. We serve not only the college campus, but also basically anyone who is trying to do anything cool nearby. So if you're doing something cool, come talk to me because I like hearing about cool things. We have all sorts of programs, free learning opportunities, as well as our executive director, Cameron, and our other full-time employee, Arlene, are wonderful connectors in the greater Sacramento region. So come talk to us and we'll help you out.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Now, she mentioned Cameron, the executive director at the Carlsen Center, who's been doing a great job making sure the center connects with the community and grows. And it's really a wonderful way of bringing Global Entrepreneurship Week that has been all week here to the city. It has, I think, sustainably grew it pretty much every single year to this awesome entire week of activity. But some of you might not know, Cameron used to work at CleanStart. So, yeah, we didn't pay him, so I guess he was an intern.
Had to find work.
He went on to better things and a great way to support our community by building the coming here to the Carlsen Center and helping establish Global Entrepreneurship Week. All right, now I wanted to give Gary a couple seconds to talk about CleanStart.
Okay. So we began CleanStart in 2005. So get to 2025 and maybe we'll have a big celebration. But we've been at this for a while. The idea that I had and my co-founder, Mark Henwood, had is we both managed to cash out some businesses that we were in. We didn't want to travel that much anymore, and we wanted to see if we could make Sacramento the hub for a clean tech cluster. So that's what we started on, and now we have over 115 companies. They represent just about 10,000 jobs, and the revenue is growing to close to $5 billion a year. So this is a significant sector. If it were one company, you'd say, wow, that's a really big company. But it, of course, is distributed among many. But a lot of them have grown dramatically. In the past year, we've seen over $2 billion in new investment come in. We've seen our first billion-dollar valuation company. Doesn't happen to be that today. They're a public company, and they've been spending money as they grow. That's Origin Materials. They've just started production. Now, Origin is a good example, starting in 2001 from an idea at UC Davis, and being very persistent. They've managed to now get one plant into production, another one beginning construction in Louisiana, and they're generating millions of dollars a month in revenue, with $10 billion in the pipeline from contracts, purchase agreements that they have signed with companies around the globe. So they make a plastic substitute. Don't have to use petroleum to make those plastic bottles that you have in front of you, but it's the same material that makes those. So at any rate, we provide knowledge, training, capital, access, introductions, and connections to other people in the community that can help our companies. So if you know of anybody that has an idea, our next cohort of our crash course, our master class for CEOs is coming up. But this is our 2023 Spotlight event. Back again finally in person after a long COVID pause. So welcome tonight, and we hope you enjoy it. Pardon? Yeah, I can say that if you want.
Well, so I was just double checking, because I meant to ask, but so there's going to be 10-minute presentations. I am going to be the timekeeper, so companies look for me in the back to be frantically waving at you before I chase you off stage. I will give you a countdown, of course, of 2 minutes left, 1 minute left, and 0 will be 30 seconds. Then we'll have 10-minute expert Q&A from our experts. And then we'll toss to the audience for some questions, and we'll bring a mic around for you guys. Now I want to go through our expert panel. I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves a little bit, because I know when I've heard them all introduce themselves, they've introduced themselves better than, let's say, Brooke from Minetta Ventures. She can tell you a lot more about what she does and why she's good. And same with Justin at 5 Stars, so I'll let you guys go through it.
Hi, I'm Brooke from Minetta Ventures. I'm an associate at Minetta Ventures. I'm responsible for a lot of the deal evaluation and screening that goes on in the Sacramento area. I'm based in Folsom. I've been with the firm for 2 years. We do B2B SaaS investing. Checks between $1 and $5 million usually. And yeah, if you have a company in that space, let me know.
My name is Justin Miller. I'm with 5 Star Bank. I'm with the Venture Debt Program. At 5 Star Bank, we provide up to $6 million in debt capital. Not a career banker. I actually spent a lot of time in early stage companies, specifically in the fiber optic space.
Good
Good evening, everyone. I'm David Lopez. I'm currently an angel investor, professional investor, so I play in both private and public markets. I'm on the selections team with the Sacramento Angels, and I'm still young, but I feel like I've had two lives. So in the prior non-angel investing life, I was a portfolio manager at investment management firm out in the Bay Area.
Yo, my name is JDM, aka Josh David Miller. I work with VC funds and incubators and directly with some startups and universities to help startups find their early growth path. The end.
Hi, I'm Jessie, and my role here at the Carlsen Center consists of looking at a lot of startup pitches. So I've seen many pitches over my time here, and previous to that, my entrepreneurial background is I co-founded a company in women's health medical device that was spun out of Cal Poly and sold a couple summers ago. So.
I have to point out that David is a graduate of Sac State, and he's also set up his own foundation for giving scholarships to diverse students to get them more involved in the financial services sector. So he's really paying back a lot of the advantages that came to him and success. We all thank you for that, David. You can always tell Josh David Miller by the shoes. Tonight they're lime green. So he's easy to spot all the way across campus. So you, the feedback experts, need to ask questions about, do you think they have the right product market fit? Do you think they're making the right pitch to investors? Are they answering investors' questions? Do you think they have zeroed in and made a good case for financial projections for what they see as their future? So we'll see. The companies tonight, we'll start with Zero Home, then we'll go to LeCap, then Ascent OS, Joppa, and we'll finish with Thermoshade. So just to give you the heads up on that. So with that, shall we invite Zero Home to the stage here?
Yes, we shall. So give us 1 second to change over.
Mic yourself up. That's all right. Oop. Give me 1 second. Can anyone hear me?
While he's doing that, a special welcome to Winnie Comstock Carlson. Thank you for coming tonight. So Comstock's Magazine, editor and publisher and owner, and I don't know, you've got lots of things behind your name, but Winnie, you've been very helpful to CleanStart over the years. We appreciate that a lot. And having you here tonight is very important to me, so thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me here. My name is Modit Saxena. We're Zero Home, and we figured out a way to simplify home decarbonization. If home decarbonization is a new term for you, don't worry, we'll talk all about that today. So I want to start with this question. How would you go about slashing your home's energy bill in half? How would you do it? If I came up to you and I said, I'll help you do it, would you be able to show me exactly what I should be doing in your home? Would it be windows? Would it be ceiling insulation? Perhaps if you've got a pool pump, maybe that. Where would you begin, right? Unfortunately, most of us don't carry around that kind of knowledge in our heads when we walk around here. The only way to get that answer is for you to spend $750 and get a home energy audit. And that is a process you have to schedule. Somebody shows up at your doorstep. So they spend 2 hours walking through your home, taking all kinds of measurements. 2 weeks later, they'll send you a report, very technical report. And if you're brave enough to go through that technical report and understand it, you might be able to point out exactly what you should be doing in your home to reduce your utility bills. That is a huge missed opportunity, not just for you, because it's such a pain in the neck to do this. It's so hard for people to do it. No one's doing it. No one's spending $750 to get a home energy audit done for their home. And it's a missed opportunity, not just for you to be living in a home with much lower utility bills, it's actually a lost opportunity for the federal government, the state government, the city government, and your utility, because they all have climate action goals. And those climate action goals and mandates have budgets behind them with billions of dollars ready to spend on you and your home to make it more energy efficient and reduce carbon from your homes. That's the problem, is we've made this so hard for homeowners to understand that a lot of the programs that these utility companies and cities and states are running are having a hard time kind of getting off the ground. So we thought to ourselves and said, wouldn't a whole lot more people do this if we made the process simple? Now imagine that there was a website where you could just type in your home address, and with a few clicks, that website would guide you step by step on how to reduce your home's energy bills and reduce carbon that you're burning by using fossil fuels in your home. Best of all, wouldn't it be great if you could use that website for free? Well, what I've just described to you is Zero Home. Zero Home is a web platform that we have built that allows homeowners to just type in a home address, and we give you customized recommendations for your home on how to reduce your home's carbon emissions and your utility bills. And using the same platform, we guide utilities, cities, and local governments and show them how they can be running their programs more effectively to reach a larger audience. We take money from cities, utilities, and governments to put that homeowner platform up for you so you can use it for free. That's the idea behind Zero Home. We have, how do we do it? It's a technical slide here. I'm gonna suffice to say for today's presentation that we use big data, cloud computing, and we built a proprietary machine learning algorithm, and we analyze gobs of data to be able to do this. Before Zero Home existed and this proprietary machine learning method existed, it wasn't possible for you to do this analysis at scale and with this accuracy. We've been a company for about 4 years now. We got a start with a small business innovation research grant from DOE. And we have contracts with utilities across the country now. We have deployed our tool in multiple cities. In 9 of these cities that are in red, our tool is active right now. We have over 200,000 homes that we have modeled and are available on our platform. These are 200,000 homeowners that can type in their home address right now and get recommendations on how to reduce their utility bills. We have homeowners that are using our tool right now in Sacramento, Petaluma, San Luis Obispo, Irvine, Pico Rivera. These are 5 cities in the state. And homeowners love the simplicity of Zero Home. They love using it. They just type in their home address and they're able to get recommendations. We also got a recognition just 2 weeks ago. We were awarded the Sacramento Inno Award 2023 award in innovation and sustainability, so it's really great to be recognized. We believe that we are at a really good point. So the timing of our market entry has been very opportune. There's a lot of opportunity coming our way. Next year, 2024, the Investment Recovery Act, or IRA, is going to pump in $8.8 billion to cover home energy upgrades and to decarbonize homes at scale. On top of that, utilities in the US currently spend about $3.3 billion per year on this particular problem, to solve the problem of getting homes more efficient and decarbonized. So with that, a very rough and a very conservative addressable market size of $1.5 billion. So we take that up. We've put together a tool, we've put it in the market, and we've also proven it right at the time when all of this money is going to be coming down the pipe for this particular market. We partner with cities and utilities, and I'll give you an example of Sacramento and SMUD. We partnered with the city of Sacramento to help them develop their existing building electrification strategy roadmap. This is a groundbreaking document that the city of Sacramento was able to put together because we were able to provide them large-scale analysis for 115,000 homes in their city. They had never had access to information like this before. So this is our work that was able to put Sacramento really ahead of every other city in putting together an existing building electrification strategy plan. We also made the tool available to all Sacramento residents. So if you're a Sacramento resident, you can type in your home address in Zero Home today. We're a group of building science and data science and software nerds. I love my team. This is our team. Really, this is the powerhouse behind everything. We want to grow our team, and we already are started off in a pretty good place. Our revenues are looking fairly good. Between last year and this year, a total revenue of about $1.3 million. Next year, we are projecting $1.6 million in revenue through all the contracts that we have with our utilities already, and we are scaling more. And we're projecting that forward with all of the new money coming in with IRA and the existing programs getting a boost from that. We are projecting that by 2030, we could be looking at $20 to $30 million in revenue. We're seeking investment, and the driver for that growth is our team. So we need to grow the size and skill set of our team to be able to really expand in the way that we are projecting ourselves to be able to go. We're looking for $5 million in investment, and that $5 million we will convert into revenue through hiring the right people to expand our team. We think we've got a great product in our hands. We've tested it, we put it out there, and it's really looking like it's the right time for us to grow. So I'll leave it at that. That's my contact. And stopping here, right on time.
Jesse?
I'm first. Can you tell me a little bit more about your revenue model?
Sure. So we have, when we deploy our tool, we usually have a one-time charge which is based on the number of homes in a city or a region that we're deploying the tool in. And then we have what's a SaaS model, essentially. We have a subscription model to keep that tool alive and working for multiple years.
And the payers are cities.
Correct.
And
The payers can be cities or utilities. In all of our cases, we've had either of the two or sometimes a combination of two. For Sacramento, it was the city of Sacramento, and then SMUD came up and co-funded that project. In many places, it was the utility that we approached first. They were struggling with their programs to get off the ground. We showed them our tool, and they said, let's go ahead and pilot it.
Okay, can you talk a little bit more, that's helpful, thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about the value proposition from your payer's perspective, not the homeowner's perspective?
Yeah.
I want to understand that better.
Great. So from the payer's perspective, which is cities and utilities, so I'll give you an example of city. The city of Sacramento was designing the first of a kind existing building electrification roadmap. And for that, they needed insights into exactly how heat pumps, for example, heat pumps are a great way to electrify your home. What is the cost of heat pumps? What are the savings from a heat pump? And by doing the analysis at scale using our tool, we were able to show them a distribution of what the costs look like for homeowners and what the savings look like. And from their perspective, they were able to take that data and say, looking at all the rebates that are available today, should Sacramento be adding more rebates to this or not? So that's the value they got from us. Very similarly, the utilities also look at what we do, and they figure out exactly how to tune their programs.
That's super helpful, thank you. Overall, this was super interesting. I think my biggest thought is that I was really thinking about the homeowner's perspective in the setup of the pitch.
Yeah.
And then I realized like halfway through, oh, that's not actually who's paying here.
Yeah.
So that was a little hitch for me in wanting to understand the entire story from the beginning. So just a note, yeah.
Good point. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, kind of took a couple of my questions, so I'm actually build on those because I heard you say earlier on that homeowners weren't the payer, but so much of the story was guided to homeowners that I actually spent a lot of the time searching for the story around the utilities. So I actually still have a few questions on that. So you said something like 200,000 homes into the platform. How many of those are validated? Like, how do you validate the data on that?
That's a good question. So when we work with utilities, they gave us previous year's energy usage data for these homes, and we do what's called as a calibration coefficient validation. So we look at our modeling of those homes and how much they consume, look at previous years. That's how we validate them.
Okay, and how many, it's just a two-part question, so I'll just ask it all at once. How many homeowners in that 200K have actually used the platform, and do utilities care about that?
Yes, they absolutely do. Before I tell you the number, let me tell you the sort of the background of this, right? So the utilities have struggled to achieve more than 1% uptake on their programs. So 1% of that number would be like par. We're achieving 10% consistently across all of our deployments. Once we are in, we use the city to their social media, we do outreach through them. We also use the utilities outreach. We reach about 10%. So you can take 10% of that 200,000, that's how many people are on the platform.
Okay, last question before I pass this on, and then I have more if there's time. You went over some of the business model and like details, but are these individually negotiated contracts?
Correct, they are.
Okay.
They are. So we have a template. We figured out what our costs look like. Over these few pilots, we now have a very good idea of what our costs are. And so now when we go to a utility, we go there with a proposal, we say, here's how big your region is. There's economies of scale in play here, so the larger the region, the per unit cost comes down very significantly. So that's how we plan.
And what are your margins on that, both the upfront, like on the razors and the blades?
Yeah, so the margins are very healthy because it's software. So especially for the larger ones, above 50% margin. So we are easily able to do that. Our contracts are about the size of $250,000 for a deployment. So we're able to scale quite easily.
All right, I have a couple of questions and a couple of just points for feedback. Number one, so one thing that stuck out to me is that your 2030 revenue was expected to be about 30 million, which comes out to, like 2% market penetration of your total addressable market.
Mm-hmm.
That's a concern to me as an investor because, well, I guess that's not really a question, but that would be a concern for me because I'm thinking, okay, you've got 6 more years, you're gonna own 2% of the market, everybody knows about the IRA, everybody's gonna be attacking it. And seeing that as a greenfield opportunity. So my concern would be that you're not really, well, I mean, obviously, we don't know what the future holds, but my concern would that wouldn't be enough to really be a very competitive positioning. So I guess that leads into a question I have, which is, what is your proprietary advantage and what kind of moat are you building to defend against new entrants?
That's a great question. So those are projections. I think we stayed on the conservative side, so we think we can beat those. Number 2, your part of the question is what is the moat we're building around it? The machine learning algorithm that we've developed that actually takes the data and analyzes it at scale has not existed before. We've married that with my expertise is in building energy modeling. I come with 20 years of experience working there. So I was able to take that and the machine learning piece together. So that is a unique proposition that we put together, right? So this is not available with other people who are offering similar products. We actually don't see anyone in the market offering the combination of energy modeling and machine learning. There's either purely machine learning, which is looking at energy usage data and doing data analytics, or purely energy modeling, which is just energy modeling. It's a physics-based model. We have a combination of the two. That makes it fairly unique.
Okay, and then another question I would have would be, how much runway do you have? Because at a certain point, don't we just have everyone is just super efficient, and then yeah, thanks, but we don't need you anymore, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, well, there's a lot of inefficiencies in running these programs. Let me clarify the question. So are you talking about inefficiencies in utility programs and cities needing the work done and us providing that and then coming to a future where they say, hey, everything's running so smoothly, we don't need you anymore?
Yeah, essentially, at what point are you just fully mature?
It's a good question. I don't see that in the near future at all. I think the amount of work that's required to reach homeowners, especially, and to bring this information to them, we haven't even scratched the surface here. And we're starting to build a tool that really claws at it, one project at a time. We're hoping to really work with utilities and do it at a utility-wide scale, which will be the best way for us to grow. We already are in talks with 3 utilities to do that, and with that we will get a much bigger scope. I don't think that there will be a time where our need will be zero. I think that we will still be needed to reach homeowners to get that point across. Like I said, 1% penetration is considered par. We're consistently doing 10. We want to get to 90%, 100%, right? So there's plenty of room to grow there. I don't think we're getting there anytime soon.
In the interest of time, I'll just kind of give some feedback. So one, I would suggest that you show a breakdown of expected spend. So when you had the 5 million and then you had like different ideas on how you would spend it. I like to see pie charts where it's like, we're going to spend 50% on X, we're going to spend 25% on Y. That's just helpful. I would also include your valuation and your pre-money valuation. I would also, I like to see slides with kind of exit options. So if you have an idea like, hey, how we are going to realize a return for an investor, that would be helpful. And then also I would mention, highlight any kind of team experience or any experience from your team members in startups or as entrepreneurs, especially if they are founders or with prior exits.
Got it. Thank you.
You hit on all the financial stuff already. So your revenue page, you had it from, I think, 2024, then you went to 2030. It would have been nice to kind of chart that path out a little bit, because what I was hoping to see is like 800% growth and a 500% growth, and then kind of charting out to that 2030. Yeah. And then, like you said, the exit pathway. If you can label other companies that are comparables, what those revenue multiples are, and then talk about that acquisition path. Is it 3 years out, 5 years out? Here's the companies that are playing that space. And then identify those companies, the comparables, saying, hey, this is a one-trick pony. They only do the machine learning. We have both here. And so I expect this type of multiple out of it. So, but other than that, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks. I find this very funny because I disagree strongly on the exit page, which I was laughing because I was like, we are 3 different types of investors here, and I know that different investors tend to have different preferences. So I was kind of laughing when you said it also, because I was going to make a comment. I also don't feel that it's necessary to put the valuation on the slide. It depends on how you want to play it. If it's a safe and you've already raised a bunch of money on that, then it's a little bit less of a negotiation, but otherwise you might not want to tip your hat. But that being said, you ask 2 investors and you get 10 opinions, so here you are asking 5. But anyways, I just had a couple questions as well, and some comments. So one thing generally is I think I heard you slip in there that, I've got 20 years of doing this, and like, you should have that front and center in your pitch. Like, you should highlight that right away, build the credibility up front so people, are pretty dialed in to what you're doing. Because I was listening to the pitch and I'm like, well, like, how do I know that this works, right? And it's like, well, this is what you did. You're an expert on this. Make sure that comes through clearly and early. I think that's helpful for the rest of your pitch. Same thing, business model, I think get to that sooner as well. And then on this slide that everyone's dissecting it, I think what I would like to hear here is a little bit more of the thinking behind like how you would get to those type of numbers. I don't care so much about the specific numbers in there, and I know that there's a lot of dollars that are going to come into the space, but is it, hey, we plan to expand into so many more new utilities and that's how we plan to get there, or are you thinking of like new lines of business? Like, I just want to understand why specifically like you guys will get there, or like what the thinking is around how you'll achieve that, at least like directionally. So if you're gonna put those numbers up there, make sure that folks can kind of understand like how you're backing into it. And then the other thing is that competitive markets is missing. I don't know who competitors are today. Is it like other services firms? Is it like other software out there? Is it, you know, like what's the battle you're fighting on your sales calls? Is it just educating utilities on why they need this? Do they already know? Like all that stuff is kind of what I'm thinking about. And then one last question here is are you responsible for marketing to the end users, or is that handled by the cities and the utilities?
We take the lead on that, but the cities give us a lot of their time, their staff. That's usually how they contribute. The utilities picking up most of the cost. The city is contributing by giving us their staff time and access to their resources to reach the homeowners. So the city brand is much more recognizable than Zero Home. Nobody knows Zero Home. So sending out postcards, for example, is something that we did with Petaluma and with Irvine. Both the cities paid for those postcards, so they are able to reach the homeowners. We provide the content, they do the outreach.
Okay, interesting. And then my last comment, then I'm done, I'm sure we're short on time, but it's an interesting model in that you're selling to the payers and your contracts don't necessarily seem tied to the success rate as far as like the penetration with the users, but at the same time, you're sort of semi-responsible for the user acquisition in the end, right? So to me, it's like a weird thing that in some ways you guys are involved in the marketing, right? Like it's maybe one thing to give them your collateral and have them market, but if you guys are doing the marketing, but you're not being rewarded on the success of the penetration other than winning other contracts, it's a bit like of a head scratcher to me too. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think the cities do help us with the outreach, and our success is mostly measured by our paying customers, that's utilities and cities, by the large-scale analysis that we show them. The homeowner outreach is an added advantage, and it is a direct-to-customer channel. So if the city, for example, decides that they want to add a rebate, we become the channel through which they can do that directly to the customer. So while it is important that we reach a lot of homeowners and the 10% number is really good, we want to build that, make that more, but having that is not seen as a metric over which our success is measured.
All right, thank you very much.
One question, would it?
Yes.
Because it's come up, I think it's a very good one. Why are the utilities motivated to do this? And so you're deep into it. But to clarify, regulated utilities generally have targets and goals set by the regulator.
Correct.
And if they don't meet them, they get penalized in their rate of return. And it can be significant. So the fact that they're only getting a 1% penetration, I'm sure is troublesome to the regulator. They're probably getting hit on their rate of return. So their return of using your system is a few tenths of a % improvement on their rate of return, which is on their entire capital base. So it could be hundreds of millions of dollars at stake just by getting these programs more efficient. So that's something you may want to clarify in the presentation. But yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Now we'll bring up Martin Zay from BlueTech Technologies. Now this is a company that may revolutionize the way batteries are made. All batteries are made. So this is a really important innovation, important to this area. And it's a team of veterans. This isn't their first rodeo. So welcome, Martin, and
All right.
take it away.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, I'm kind of a stand-in tonight. Actually, our CEO was supposed to be here with me. She just told me to show up and get some checks. So hope everybody brought the checkbook. So yeah, Martin Zay, BlueTech Technologies. Obviously, we're going to be the global technology leader in activated dry electrode. And if you don't know what that is, hopefully you'll know by the end of it. So of course, our vision, be the global leader in dry electrode technology and manufacturing. We want to empower our battery customers with low cost and very good performance, exceptionally high performance, and environmentally sustainable electrodes and battery solutions. So some of the problems we're trying to solve today, battery manufacturing technology is pretty mature. It's been going on for about 60 years with the same technology. It's very expensive. The batteries it produces are very low performance, and the process is extremely toxic, not only to people but to the environment. Our solution presents 15% cost reduction in net manufacturing, a 3x power density increase in your batteries. So for you people that want to charge your electric cars in 5 or 10 minutes, that's what we're going for. And we eliminate all those toxic solvents that are in the current process. A little bit about the team. So our founder and CEO, Dr. Linda Zahn, PhD, she has more than 100 patents globally, and not one of those types of patents that you just put out there and nobody uses. More than 99% of her patents are actively used in manufacturing process somewhere today. 25 years of track record commercializing products from small-scale R&D to mass production. She's the original inventor of a dry electrode technology from a little company called Maxwell Technologies down in San Diego. She invented in 2002. And in 2018, that company was acquired for about $218 million by Tesla, just for that technology. We have a new generation of that technology, which is called activated dry electrode, which basically solves a lot of the problems with that technology that Tesla just bought. And it's patented, differentiated, and we also trademarked it, because we got a trademark. I'm the co-founder. I've been working with her for about 10 years now. I have about 30 years of experience in equipment design and manufacture, primarily in the semiconductor industry, electrical, mechanical engineering background. And, of course, the dry electrode industry now, because I've been doing that for about 10 years. We have David Wojo, I just call him, because I can never pronounce his last name, Columbia student, more than 10 years in business development, working with us now in solar business, all kinds of things. He also worked at Maxwell Technologies, although a little bit after Linda left. Dr. Tawari, PhD, 10 years in battery cells. Dennis King, one of our director of operations, more than 20 years in operating technology. We've been around since 2016 here manufacturing in Sacramento. So we basically started out by having a joint venture with a company in Tianjin, China. And Linda and I said, well, we're not going to China, and we want to take our IP to China, so what we'll do is we'll start manufacturing here in the U.S., and we'll sell that electrode product to you, and you can build the cells and the modules, and then we will sell them around the globe. So that was our Gen 1 technology. So if you don't know what a supercapacitor is, it's kind of like a battery, but it doesn't have as much energy, but it gives you a lot of power really quick, really fast. And we started on a Gen 2, which is kind of where our name came out of, which is LiCAP, lithium-ion capacitor. So we prototyped the world's largest cylindrical lithium-ion capacitor. So this is kind of a hybrid between a lithium-ion battery and a supercapacitor, more energy density. We're in a pilot scale production with those, can do about 200 to 500 cells a day. Marketing and stuff, guys are just starting to get those out there. We're seeing a real positive response for those products. Of course, Gen 1 is basically what does our bread and butter. This is what pays our rent and pays our employees. And in 2018, 2019, when Tesla purchased Maxwell, a lot of people came knocking at our door and said, hey, can you do the same process for lithium-ion battery? Different chemicals for the process, but we said sure. So we started doing that, and we're at the stage now where we want to scale that and actually start manufacturing that product, the electrodes here in Sacramento, along with our Gen 5, which will be batteries. Gen 4 is our solid-state battery. So the great thing, I don't know how many people have heard about batteries, but solid-state battery is kind of the next technology they're talking about 10 years from now, here on out. The wet process that we'll go through in a little bit does not lend itself to this type of technology, but our process does. So we are also in the stage now where we're getting ready to scale that up to pilot production. And once we finish Gen 3 and have the roll manufacturing here, we're going to go into Gen 5, which is we'll start making custom batteries, high power and high energy for specialty markets, eVTOLs, guys are taking off, a lot of new businesses that need that. Just this year, in May 2023, we actually spun out from that joint venture in China, so it's now fully controlled by Linda and myself. So we're getting ready to raise a Series A funding through that, as well as working on grants through the DOE and all kinds of other folks. The wet process, so this is the process I was talking about. This is 99% of the batteries that are made today are done by this process. It's basically 5 steps, and for electrode is if you take a battery, inside of it's going to be a bunch of paper wrapped around. That's the electrode. You need to have 2 electrodes, an anode and cathode. So this is the manufacturing process we're talking about. So if you look at a gigafactory, people are making, like Samsung, Panasonic, billions of cells a year. Not only you start with making that electrode or that paper, and then you have to stack it or cut it and wind it and put it in a package and all these things down the road. So you have this huge factory doing all these operations. But in that, just this step, it's about 30 to 40% of the capex, and about 30 to 50% of the energy consumed for that entire gigafactory to take a battery, take a piece of some powder and make a battery. And of course, the carbon footprint kind of follows along with the energy. Very energy intensive, very time intensive. Like this first step is slurry mixing. This takes them 12 to 15 hours to do. Then they'll coat this. It has very toxic solvent. So they have to dry this. It's a very slow, energy intensive process. These ovens are huge. Think about 100 meters long, about 330 feet long is what it takes to dry these electrodes. And because the solvent's so toxic, you can't let it get anywhere because pretty much will kill the operators. So they have to do a lot of recovery. And it's expensive, so they have these huge recovery systems. They're also very energy intensive. To recover all this toxic solvent and try to recover as much as they can, 90-95%, put it back into the process. And because they dried all this solvent out, now it's very porous, so they have to calender it down and densify it in order to get any kind of energy density out of that battery. We simplify it a lot. We take it down to 3 steps. We basically start with a dry powder. It takes us about 15 minutes to mix that dry powder. We take that dry powder and we calender it into a freestanding electrode film, and then we laminate it onto the current collector, which could be aluminum or copper foil, depending if it's going to be your anode or cathode. This process, we think, reduces the capex by a minimum of 20%, probably a very conservative number. Energy consumption, 70%. We eliminate all of those big 100-meter long drying ovens, as well as the solvent recovery. Because we don't have all of that stuff, the manufacturing footprint reduces a lot, which is also a big energy driver because these things have to be in very tightly controlled dry rooms. And it takes a lot of energy to run those dry rooms. And the bigger they are, the more energy and the more cost. And of course, because we're reducing that energy, carbon footprint goes down dramatically. The great thing is, we thought it would be awesome when we started this if we just got, batteries that were at the same level. But it turns out our electrode gives you 2 times energy density, 3 times power density, and all this is because we lower the resistance. So this means your car can go further and charge faster. And our customers love it. If you take the smallest gigafactory out there at 1 gigawatt, we can save that company about $15 million a year just in the reduction of cost of the materials used. We have a lot of different customers. These are kind of the key ones on here, probably about another 30 or 40 below. As you can see here, there's multiple phases. So phase 1 is typically initial sampling and testing. We'll send them our chemistry out. They like it. We'll go to phase 2. They send us their materials. We do kind of a joint development, which so far has brought about $4 million in this year. From phase 2, it's kind of a paid program where we'll develop the electrode for them. If they like that, then we go into phase 3, commercial contract negotiations. We have commercial contract negotiations, about 3, 4, or 5 people right now. Some of the leading ones going to be some of the European folks. They seem to be a little bit ahead of the game compared to the U.S., but we see a big takeoff again to the IRA. What's going on? I'm watching the fingers back here, so I'm trying to run through this as quickly as possible. This is just some of the scope of their manufacturing volume. Normally, if this was an NDA presentation, you'd kind of see those names as well as the expected revenue along that phase. This is sort of our timeline. We've got a few different equipment partners. One that we just signed up with recently is Dur, about a $4 or $5 billion company in Germany that's already in the automotive and wet slurry manufacturing process. We're working with them right now to put together the first gigawatt activated line for one of our OEMs. It's a very large automotive manufacturer, EV in Germany. And we expect to have that scaled and in production by 2025, and then moving on to larger scales of 5 gigawatt an hour. Basically partnered with them and a couple other people, so we call this a turnkey solutions consortium, where the customer can go to one point of contact and get a turnkey solution. Thank you, guys. Any questions? I got it just in time, didn't I?
All right, to our judges.
All right, let me start at the other end and let Brooke go. First
SWAT.
Okay. I know your company well.
Yeah, I saw you not too long ago, right?
So I'm not going to ask questions, but I'll just give 2 points of feedback here. I think for a very like technical group, I think you guys are going to kill it every time. I think for a less technical group, I see it with our founders too. It's really hard to take yourself out of the position of knowing all of these things. So anyway, so just two or three things that come to mind for a group maybe like this who isn't super familiar with battery manufacturing processes. So one is that maybe start with the wet mix process earlier on, because I think that it'll give people a sense of how batteries are manufactured today and earlier on. And that also hits a little bit on the competitive side earlier on. So bring that in earlier and then move towards, we're doing this today for, 3 times power density, 70% less, all that kind of stuff. That's in, I think, one of your earlier slides, and then say like, here's how we do it. And it's the dry film, that kind of thing.
Almost basically completely reverse.
Yeah. I think it just helps orient people around how our batteries actually make, because I didn't know until recently. And then the other thing that I was thinking too is I think probably for the sake of time, we didn't quite get to the business model today. And one thing that might not be super apparent is, how is it both a licensing deal, and I heard something about equipment, like how does that all work together? So like as much as you can, simplifying that down into like, we license the technology, but we have to help folks, get the equipment up and running to actually produce this stuff. And we work with the partner to do, like somehow explaining that earlier on. And then also, tying that to, we expect to make the bulk of our revenue from this portion of that, I think is important to hit too. So, but otherwise, good job.
Right, appreciate it.
I was pretty interested in learning more about the business model. Like, what is it? Is it R&D here and licensing here? And are you going to their manufacturing facility? Is this being manufactured at your facility? So just maybe laying that out piece a little bit more. And then you talked earlier about the partnership you had in China. Is there any worry about infringement on the technology or them stealing the technology? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I guess on the that point, so the partner in China, obviously they said we spun out from them. So they don't really have any technology except our older Gen 1 technology. So what they will do is still produce the devices and cells for supercapacitors. They will sell those in China, and we sell and make the revenue for the rest of the world. They have nothing to do with the Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5 technology. That's all IP held here in the United States with about 45 plus patents that we have here on that technology. So it's completely separate scenario.
And then it would be good to hit on your raised dollar amount and what that gets you to. So like the timeline of that, does that correlate to licensing deals? Do you need, what does that look like? The whole scope, kind of like the pie chart he was talking about. Is that heavy R&D? Is it equipment purchases? What does that look like?
Right now we're in Series A. We're looking for about $40 million, and this would be to not only produce the equipment that's necessary, purchase the capital equipment and the space here, but also develop the spaces we need. We're a technology company, so we're always moving things forward. But we're also a manufacturing company. And on the business model side of it, we have multiple revenue streams. So we have the revenue stream that's from the licensing of the technology. We have licensing not only from the customers, but the machine suppliers also pay us the license fee for each machine that's sold. We have royalties, so once we ramp up these factories in the Gigafactory, they will pay royalties on the percentage of savings, or basically the amount of material that they're making. And then because we're creating the manufacturing space here, we'll also have a revenue stream from selling that electrode as well as the batteries to smaller companies, or even these larger companies that want to put them into their B-series cells and things like that. Plus the revenue that, of course, we make from the supercapacitor.
That's great. So I think just a slide that shows that timeline, the amount of funding, it unlocks opportunity A, B, and C down the road. I think that would be great. Good job.
Thank you.
Well, they already touched on kind of the business model. I'm trying to think, did you guys have a financial slide?
No, I didn't have time for that.
So yeah, financials would be great to see. The total addressable market would be great to see so that you can really visualize the opportunity as an investor and understand.
It's going to be, well, by 2030, they're predicting. Right now there's about 1,000 gigawatt hours of space out there. We're looking at about 4,000 gigawatt hours of space, McKinsey, by 2030. And if we capture, like we're thinking about 10% of that market, will be over $300 million a year company in terms of revenue for that.
And then just as far as competitors go, and I guess, let me ask that in combination with another question. Is this is just a component of the battery?
It is the key component. It's the electrode that makes the battery.
Okay, so then do you have competitors in this space? Can anybody, I mean, I don't know much about batteries, but if I'm developing a battery, can I just easily swap in your product in place of my existing product? Does it need to change do I need to change my design?
Yeah, no, we slide right in. We replace that nasty toxic process we talked about. Everything downstream after that stays the same. Competitor-wise, again, I have other slides that I can't do here today. But if you look at us and Tesla, we're the highest technical readiness level. We're the closest ones to go to manufacturing stage. Tesla purchased this technology about, I say, 2018, about 6 years ago. They've yet to commercially scale it because it's an older type of technology. It was originally designed for supercapacitors. We've solved that problem, we believe. And we are actually able to produce both the anode and the cathode, whereas Tesla can only produce the anode right now in their cells that are going into your batteries, which has given them a big advantage. Just replacing half of it is why they're able to drive the cost down in your Tesla right now and also give you accelerated performance. But they're still struggling with that. And we believe we've solved that, and we're partnering with, like I say, some really large OEMs that also have that faith, and we're spreading it to the world.
Okay, other than that, I mean, I just wanted to say great leadership team slide. I liked, as Brooke had mentioned, kind of putting that in the front makes it easy to establish the credibility. I like the history slide, excellent slide on the electrode process. And then I liked your ROI data. I thought that was very helpful to kind of understand, like, okay, here's the value proposition for our potential customer base. Okay, one last question I have. So does this only apply to lithium ion?
No, it also applies to solid state batteries, the next generation coming up.
Got it. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's all for me.
All right, cool. First of all, one quick thing, super dumb and America-centric, but I see that as LICAP, so I just wanted to throw that out there. There's a lot of parallel acronyms out there that follow the same structure, NICAP, VICAP, and others. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's totally dumb, but American-centric, but here we go. All the good stuff was taken already here, so I'm just going on pronunciation. How close are you right now to commercializing at scale?
So the team, we have a CEC grant that's putting a LRIP, low rate initial production line. So we expect to have that line up and completed and running here in Sacramento by the end of next year. And about that same time, the 1 gigawatt hour line will also be coming on from our European partner going in. So we're probably about a year away from getting to the first 1 gigawatt scale, and then about another year out to get into the larger super mass production.
Okay, and you use the same phrase, "we believe," about 5 or 6 times when answering David's question.
Mm-hmm.
So can you elaborate on the "we believe"?
The we believe would be basically the whole team, myself, Dr. Zong, and all of our customers. So like I said, we have about 40 customers.
I didn't. That the "we believe" introduces doubt into the processes. So so that doubt translates to risk, and so I'm asking, like, what is the risk in there?
So the risk right now is nobody's done it before, right? So even Tesla, they purchased that technology 6 years ago, and they haven't commercialized it. They commercialized half of it, but not the other half. Whereas we believe that we have that other half solved, and so do our technology partners, and so do our customers that have tried it, and so that's why they're willing to get in bed with us and run with it. So when I say we, I'm not talking about just us and the company. I'm talking about all of our customers and our technology partners.
Okay, cool. Last thing, and this is the business model, whereas I was spending a ton of time on it there, but there's a more general version of the feedback, I think, as well, that kind of applies to all this, which is that just like in terms of the pitch, You spend most of the time talking about things I don't care about.
Right.
And what I mean by that is not that's not fascinating, because I actually would love to have a drink and like dive into the sciences, because like let's nerd out, but because it's super cool stuff. But there's a lot that you can hand wave away in this pitch because it's just not relevant. And if you just focus on the actual structure, you've got the team, which is great to David's point, like it's perfect, like that's awesome. And 30,000 foot view, this technology compared to that, you had the benefits like pretty well laid out. Like that version of the story, I think would be much more compelling. And then everything else is a due diligence question. It's just not super interesting for the pitch as far as I'm concerned. So I think you can do a whole hell of a lot of simplification here and just end up with something strong. And I think that we're all glomming onto like the business model part of that, but I actually think it applies to the whole thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, we're used to pitching technology, not to.
It's common in a technical space, like with deep tech, it's always a thing. But just yeah,
Appreciate you. Good feedback.
Most of my comments have absolutely been covered, so I'll just say them in a slightly different way that might be helpful.
Sure.
So I'll note that when you got to the solution slide for the first time, Thomas had 3 minutes left, so it took 7 minutes to get to the solution. So I think that's like, if you
Right.
cut that down, you'll be able to cover everything else we've been asking about.
Right.
Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing. And I'll just note too, for me, when David was asking you some questions, you started talking about Tesla's manufacturing process, and in really clear, simple terms, we're talking about the downfalls of it. And I almost think you just put that in the pitch. That's the level that we want to hear it first.
Right.
And because that gives us like a scaffolding of context to understand why all these other things we're talking about in terms of how batteries are made matter. So that's my thought.
Yeah, appreciate
Yeah.
it. Yeah, we have a slide for
super-
that, and I should have put it in.
Yeah, super interesting technology. It sounds amazing. You want to know more?
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thank you very much. All right, our next company up is Ascent OS with John Meisner. This is a software company, but the intent is to help people that are in the solar and storage installation business do their job more efficiently and with less costs. So we'll get him started here soon. After this presentation, we'll take a short break so you can get some more refreshments. There's some sandwiches left. And Jesse, the restrooms are down the hall out the door, right?
Yeah, out and to the left.
Okay, so if biology is becoming a consideration. Uh-oh.
My company is Adobe, you might have heard of it.
You broke the system.
Seed Stage Adobe. My name is John Meisner, I'm the CEO of Ascent OS, and I am ready to be judged. Bring it. Who here has solar panels, who's had solar installed on their home or a friend's home? How was that experience? Fine? Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. So the companies out there who do those installations have a really hard job. Your mileage may vary if you had a good experience, a bad experience. I guarantee you the people running the business who installed it had a bad week. That's very common in this industry. So real quick background on me before I dive in. I lived on the East Coast for a long time. I was at the Department of Energy for about 6 years. And then after that, did a lot of stuff with the National Renewable Energy Lab in Colorado. So a lot of my life before this was very deep tech, early stage, either super high level, like national goals for deployment, or real low level sort of technologies. And what's missed, I think, in all of that, what I've learned as somebody who's really been in deployment of renewables, is how many technologies are so close to rapid deployment and how hard those businesses are to run. I could waste my whole 10 minutes and then some telling you horror stories about what it's like running these companies, being a salesperson, just kind of the stuff that's happening in the industry right now. And so Ascent is built to solve these problems and make these companies, these installers, truly become powerhouses and scale technologies and get solar and batteries and everything out into the world faster. So I'll dive in. I don't need to convince this crowd that it's a big market. We are in the middle of a truly generational shift in energy. I mentioned batteries, and we've heard some battery talk here, and I'll be specific that my customers are residential and light commercial folks. They're construction companies. You hear, oh, it's a solar company, it sounds all high tech and whatever, but they're not. These are construction companies selling energy devices into the home and small business. EV chargers, span smart panels, all kinds of things like that. So our product today is Salesforce for solar installers, but that means something totally different to a solar installer. It's not for tracking leads and doing sales kind of stuff like CRM. This is what these companies use today for their back office operations management. So how do I take a signed contract and get that all the way to an installed project for the homeowner to turn on and use? And so what we're doing is a very industry-specific version of that for these solar companies. And in the future, my business partner, Shreyas, who I'll mention briefly here too, is a data science background, computational software architect. And one of the things we absolutely know we can do as we evolve our product is start getting much deeper into the weeds in terms of how do we really help these companies day-to-day operate their businesses with machine learning and more data-driven technologies. Some of this I'll go through quickly, so please ask away when we get done here. But one of the big root causes of the problem for these companies is working capital. And I'll get to the next slide here. We'll show you what I mean by that. But these are low-margin businesses. They have long variable cash cycles, and they're doing tons of installations. I mean, they're doing like 20 to 200 a month, right? So they're on a conveyor belt. And the reason why they get in trouble is somebody's out selling on their behalf, knocking on your door, selling you solar. They might sell garbage. They don't care. They're getting a commission. They sell something, they hand it off to an installer. That installer has to review that deal to make sure it's buildable, send somebody out to the home to take photos to make sure that the main panel is right, the home's not too old or whatever. They have to do permitting, they have engineering to get to a plan set. There's utility interconnection. They have to do inspection scheduling. And all of this requires a whole lot of sort of bottlenecks in the process. So you can imagine that if a company takes 3 months on average to go from deal review to an installed project, and throughout the working capital, so the part I didn't mention was that they don't get paid by the lender, there's always a lender involved, until the project is completed. So if I'm a solar installer and I take 3 months on average to go from deal review to install, that means I'm holding and paying my people, paying for the panels and all the equipment for that 3-month period. So now I get ambitious and I decide I want to go from 20 per month to 50 per month. My whole operation got more complicated. My bottlenecks got worse. That 3 months becomes 4 months, becomes 5 months, becomes 6 months. I run out of money and I go out of business. Happens all the time. A big partner we're talking to, they work with 400 solar installers. 30 of them went out of business in the past year. So our product, touch on this briefly here too, I mentioned it. We're trying to be a custom CRM for the industry, but what these companies use today is Salesforce, Zoho, QuickBase, very generic horizontal CRMs. They spend a few $100,000, 12 months of their life customizing this thing for their own use, and they hate it. What we're doing is bringing an industry-specific platform with best practices, so in a couple of months, they can get going with all the things they need to run their business, done the way that they're supposed to do it. We'll give them tools around scheduling and mobile apps, help them with cash management, like job costing. In the future, we want to move to more of a data-driven, AI-enabled type of operation here, where you can really pull a lot of the manual effort out of the process. The deal review stage, for example, reviewing signed contracts, very manual. Like you're literally looking at a contract and comparing it and making sure you can build it. The permitting process is very manual still. And then once we've established a beachhead and we get ourselves to, say, 15, 20 customers, now we can start layering in different kinds of vertical products on top of the software. Like working capital loan underwriting, for example, or helping insurance products get sold into these companies. Even partnering with the equipment manufacturers who would love to be able to have access to high-performing solar companies. So status of where we are today, we have 3 live customers out of 5 total signed. We're sitting at about 450,000 of contracted ARR. 250 of that is live. Knock on wood, we are a week or 2 away from signing a customer that will more than double that to get to our goal for the end of the year of over $1 million of contracted ARR, and then we'll onboard them after that. Huge market today, even bigger market in 2030. We're looking at a SAM of about $3 billion. Our SOM, which is just sort of like our beachhead market, we look at is about 2,000 to 3,000 companies out there. And I'll say it again, these aren't just companies who sell solar, right? This is rooftop companies or roofing companies, electrical contractors, even like home improvement contractors. They're all selling energy devices into the home. We have our early customers are ramping adoption. These are the customers on the right here. For the sake of time, I won't dive into too deeply. Just quickly about the competitive landscape. I mentioned already that there's lots of these CRMs out there in the bottom right. These are your generic horizontals. You have some industry or construction-specific software in the bottom here, and in the upper left is most of the solar software out there. And it tends to be more deep tech, like what Aurora Solar does in terms of rapid modeling of rooftop energy production. Those tend to be very energy specific, but they aren't designed to be a fully flexible, configurable operations platform, which is what we're doing at Ascent. X's and boxes. How do you grow a business like this? Well, this can be a huge business, right? I mean, like for the investor folks out here who do software, this is a vertical software category. So for us, it's not just about our fees today, it's about layering on different products on top of that. Ultimately, to get ourselves into the 100 million ARR range in the next five years or so. So we know we can do it without too aggressive of market penetration. Now we just have to execute. Pricing model is currently predominantly project-based. So if you're a customer who's doing 50 installs per month, we'll charge you, say, $200 times 50 in arrears, and that's the fees for the previous month. We're toying with the pricing model. One of our customers, we've locked into a flat monthly based off of their trailing 12 months installs, but we're still working on that. You know me, I've been talking a lot. Dan Becker, my co-founder, is enterprise SaaS background. He's got a long career working in large companies and small companies alike. He was an investor, a Kaufman Fellow, but then he's been an operator for the past 5 years, doing a lot of stuff with startups, enterprise SaaS. I mentioned Shreyas. He's somebody I worked with at DOE, but he was at NREL for a long time, and he's been in and out of industry throughout his career. And we are raising $1.5 million for our seed right now. We want to hire engineers. Our current platform is a great MVP, but we really know we need to get something scalable to really hit those targets and milestones down the road. We have some very specific 2024 milestones around getting ourselves from our 6 contracts today, well, hopefully 6 contracts, we signed this one, up to, say, 12 to 15 this time next year, and start getting ready for a Series A fundraise. We've raised $2.7 million to date, and we are ready to rock and roll, so please send me some money. Thank you for your time.
That's great, Charlie. So I'm going to start in the middle.
Ooh.
So we'll begin with David and pass to the left when you're done.
Is that a Silicon Valley joke?
Everything up right.
So one of the first things that kind of came to mind, and perhaps this is just too early for you guys, but so you guys have been selling since 2023.
This is 2023, right? Yes, we just started selling.
Okay, just started selling. What's kind of the length of the sales cycle?
Yes, I'll say. So last year was all product development, and we've been selling it and onboarding it this year exactly. So the sales cycle has been 1 to 2 months, depending on the first couple contracts were actually super fast. But yeah, we're typically looking at 1 to 2 months from kickoff, like first introduction meeting to like contract negotiations.
Cool. How is the deceleration in the solar industry been impacting you?
It sucks. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, if the national company with 400 solar installers they work with and 30 around the business, so it's rough right now. I mean, we easily have double the ARR right now if it wasn't for companies going out of business. I mean, we had this quick anecdote. We had literally, it would have been our biggest customer. We sent them the DocuSign, and they told us like the next day they're going out of business. And so that's happened a couple of times, and it's tough, but the industry is still growing overall, and when you look at like the 4 to 5 year horizon, it's still going to be a growth market.
And what was the valuation?
Of the business right now?
Yes.
Oh.
That you're raising money.
Well, we're looking at single-digit pre-monies. We want to price this round.
And then what kind of IP protection do you have? Or I mean, in a SaaS business, how much IP protection can you have? What kind of moat are you building? And how would you kind of defend against that moat?
Yeah, well, moats in this kind of business are interesting. So once we can get to critical mass, and we've layered in some of those vertical products, like we become the source of capital, we become a source of insurance products, and also we can turn on some transactional kind of stuff with the big equipment manufacturers. That becomes a very, very strong moat. But we're also very sticky. So you get us in, it's hard to rip us out, right? But today, yeah, I mean, it's the biggest thing we have going for us moat-wise is it's really hard to build a back office piece of software that does everything these companies need to do. There's a reason that the horizontal CRMs exist, we exist, and a few other kind of like smaller time versions of us. It's just really hard. But I wish I could say I've got amazing IP like the battery guy.
Got it. And then what's kind of the exit plan?
Well, aside from IPO all the way, baby, I think like there's one interesting thing is that the solar industry is a big roll-up industry, and so we're already talking to PE firms and even national, like say, lenders who really love bringing in tech in-house. So if you're a big PE fund and you're going to acquire 50 to 100 solar companies over a decade, you want a platform to run all those, right? And so we see at the lower end those kind of PE roll-up models. We see some of the big national players like lenders who just want their own tech, and then certainly there's just really big growth opportunities too.
Got it. Any kind of indication from the conversations you've had with those players when they might be looking at you, what kind of milestones you might need to hit first?
They're looking right now.
Oh, just like plucking you up right now, not you don't need to hit any certain milestones?
Well, that's yet to be seen, but I mean, we're taking lots of inquiries. I'll say that.
All right, we're in SaaS, kind of my home territory here. So I'm actually gonna leave most of the questions to everybody else and just give some feedback. So I had this kind of evolving interpretation of your pitch as I went. So my notes just kind of like don't make a lot of sense to it, but I have an overarching picture now, which is I think a few things. So first, the pacing was a bit off, and I know that it seems like a small thing, but you had some slides like where you had the same amount of text essentially on both slides, and you went through one in a minute, and then the other one in about 4 seconds. So there were some of those things where I actually wanted details at. So the pacing was a little off. The order of the whole of the problem part of your deck, you had like 2 or 3 slides there. It felt out of order. It felt like there's a cleaner version of the story there. And I think all of that led me to this thing that, and it might just be me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong because they would have easily missed something, but it felt like you overcomplicated the whole thing. Like this doesn't seem that complicated. Not in terms of the actual solution. I understand what a vertical solution in this space. I get that that's really complicated from their perspective, but the play is not. It's SaaS, so it's business process. I don't know. It felt overcomplicated. I think the story could have been a lot simpler there. But then again, I could have been missing something major in here that makes it more complicated than it is. In which case, yay. So last couple things. The go-to-market, I wanted more detail there. I think you need to dig at the house with the house shovel a few more times. Brooke's laughing.
I've never heard that.
The house shovel, you have a certain amount of detail, you need more, you ask how, and you keep digging with the house shovel until you get to too much detail to be relevant here. But anyway, a bit more there I wanted to see. It was kind of shallow, and in a 5-minute pitch that would have been fine. I think in 10 minutes I wanted to see more.
So is the question about go-to-market? Because I didn't really touch on it at all. I saw my time and I breezed by it.
You breezed by it, but I read it anyway because go-to-market is a particular interest to me, so I happened to read it, and that's what I was based on. So maybe you would have talked about it in more detail. Last 2 things. I'm just doing feedback, and then we'll and they can do all the questions. You're welcome. The business model, you went through that too fast for me, so I actually didn't get all the details on that. Just kind of went there. And then the last thing is just in terms of the raise itself, and David was kind of hitting on this a little bit too. But I wanted a little bit more again of that detail or how on C to Series A. On what that. I actually don't care about the exit in this particular case because it's SaaS and it's not interesting to me. But I am interested in how you get to Series A and what the roadway looks like for that. So, yeah. And C.
Okay, I'm processing all of that. So I thought this was super interesting. I only have a couple high-level thoughts. And the first one that just stuck out to me is that I'll say really personable as a presenter, and I like that as someone that's listened to a lot of pitches. I will say that this self-depreciating bit is fine until you say we're trying to be a CRM for this market, and that's your business. Like, don't say we're trying to do this. Like you are. You're doing it. So you said that. I don't know if you know you said that. You said we're trying to be your CRM for our just don't. You're doing it. So I mean that in a way to like build you up, like you're doing it. Like don't undercut it there. And the other thing that I agree with Josh on some of the order at the beginning. I totally understood by the end, like everything that you were doing, but I was like backtracking a little bit and filling in some of that information that I wanted sooner. One in particular that note that might be helpful is on the competitive landscape slide. You had the box and the arrows. And that's actually where you explained how your solution was different than a normal CRM. And I want that before you get to your competitive landscape. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Those are, I mean, I really like it. I think it's super interesting. I'd love to know more about like what phases look like for your business model moving forward and how that ties into what kind of funding you're going to go raise, because I think that's an interesting question for you guys. But like shoring up the beginning part of the pitch will like help all of that conversation. Those are my thoughts.
Cool.
I thought it was good. It was great. I feel like you're like,
That's your job.
So I felt like a lot of the juice was towards the end of the presentation, all the good stuff I wanted to see. And you started off introducing yourself, and I felt like you could have put the team slide up there first. So I always think about presentations, so good front end, good back end, you got to bookend this presentation. And you have a lot of industry expertise on your team. I just felt that right up front when you started talking about yourself, that's when you should have dropped it. And then you started going into this problem, solution, and I almost thought you could have hit it with one slide, just drop a use case scenario out there. What is the objective value for one average home, putting solar panels on, installation looks like this, new installation process looks like this, and just sheer dollars saved for the installer. And I thought you could probably have made one or two slides there. And then on the competitive landscape, my first reaction is, wow, there's a lot of competitors out there. And then the differentiator that I caught, and maybe I missed it, was, we're fast and we're flexible. So maybe just kind of going further into that, there's a lot of ambiguity I can think about in those two, that differentiating factor. So I would say maybe hit home a little further on that piece.
I feel like we're coming at you really hard tonight. I thought overall you did a really good job. I just want to say that. I really liked the intro too. I think you did a good job of like getting us in the frame of mind around like how you're thinking about this from a strategic perspective too, and why it's an interesting industry. So I really like that. My like overarching piece of feedback here is what like stuck in my mind from the problem statement is really the cash flow issues. And we came back to it a couple times, right? Because you've had customers go out of business, people are going out of business left and right in this market. And to me, like what I heard is like, oh, well, people need like working capital, right? Like they need to have a stopgap there. And I know that we've talked before, like this platform, the difference over some of the other vertical solutions is really some of the like cash flow management parts of it, right? And so I felt like there was like a little bit of a problem solution dissonance when I was going through the pitch, right? Because I was like, well, why aren't you just like sourcing deals and like hooking people up with lenders? Like that seems like the natural solution from the problem that like I heard. So either like slightly reframing the problem where like that's a component of it, but maybe hit harder like the workflow management and things like that, and this is like a small part of what you do. That's, I know you're hitting it because of differentiation, or like on the solution side, make sure to like very clearly show like exactly like the how shovel. Like I needed the how shovel for the cash flow side of it because my solution I was waiting for was like the lending origination component. So that was like my overarching piece of feedback. And then I also agree with Justin. I had the same note. Maybe tell a user story in the beginning might be a good way to like get that more intuitively. And I think for these quick pitches too, like those are like the best way to get problem solution competitors like all out really quickly. But yeah, I thought you did a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, John, thank you very much.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Come right back here. We've got 2 more presentations. Japa, just another parking app. Glad I finally understand what the name is. And Thermoshade. So please avail yourselves of the refreshments. Come on back and be ready. Okay. Did you get the box?
Thank you.
No? It's okay. If you need me to haul the table over and find the floor, we're there. Franklin, welcome. Your wife took that part. She doesn't do that.
That actually hurt. Carlsen Center at gmail.com.
It's hard to say because it's usually going to go the details, but it's going to be so we'll say yes.
So we're very good.
The last time I feel like we're all, we should take it as a compliment. Yeah, like, yeah.
We're taking.
Well, it can be done, it can be something like technology, it can be cosmetics, all those things. We're going to use the technology. We're selling the process of creating. No, what we do is we license the IP, which is the process. License that for suppliers and for our customers. So we full turnkey solution, right? So then they license our technology, our process. We help them, whatever chemistry it is they want to use. From that, it's like upfront. Yeah, I just got done working with James over at Smart. So we're talking about, so this is quite right.
Wire you up.
No, but yeah, energy storage is a big thing, so we
Sort that out.
business development ourselves.
I've been taking off on it when it comes to the Q&A time, I'm gonna take that off and give it to you, and I'm gonna give you one. So that way I can give it to the next person. And that way we can, I'm gonna shave 30 seconds off here and there. Maybe turn on. So let's see, yeah. But I would put it like if you have it in pocket here, because if you turn it on now, like people are just gonna hear you. Which will be.
this is nothing new. We'll try to make it. That's the other thing, is because the wet process have a lot of waste. We use about 95% of our active materials are here. So everything's recycled. So that food will go directly right back into our process to mix it. So we have very little, very little. I'm going to have more. I don't have to do my car job.
Yeah, yeah. That was kind of like a tacked on right before. We were like, okay, well now we've got. Yeah, there's the second.
Yeah, I'm the VP of operations.
I'd like to
Set the bar high. Set the bar high, and I'm like, well, now you gotta go. Yeah.
Very smart. Well, she's from Hangzhou, so she came here to the U.S. Craigslist? Yeah.
Nobody in particular. Okay, we need to come back together.
No, so yeah, she's looking for a process. Let's start. So when they try.
All right.
Taking out the right
Attention attendees, we are now ready to get started with our next company. All right, we're almost through this. We've got two more companies presenting. And now I would like to welcome Matthew from Joppa to come and present. And we keep talking.
Test. You guys seen this pitch like 3 times this past week already, but I appreciate the feedback. Hi everybody, my name is Matthew Magno. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Joppa. It's short for Just a Parking App, but we're making parking a lot smarter. And we Joppa like it's hot. I gotta throw that in too. Yeah, so what started off as a classroom project at UC Davis, we are now one of the leaders in the smart parking market. Pretty much we're building the Google Maps of parking paired with the sophistication and analytics of Tableau. So parking, we all understand it, it's horrible, right? We probably get nightmares just looking at this picture. But let's take one space for example. Did you know that this one parking space costs over $30,000 to $40,000 just to build from scratch? Super expensive. Now multiply this by a couple thousand, a parking structure like this is going to cost you tens of millions to close to $100 million. But the funny thing is with all of this building and parking, people still cannot find parking. And this is causing parking management to keep building and building more and more parking. But the thing is, in reality, only 60 to 70% of the parking is actually being utilized. It's due to poor management and awareness of the parking spaces. Now, this is becoming a huge problem in the US today. With over 1 billion parking spaces in the US, parking lot operators are losing 30% of their potential revenue due to poor management and not showing people our optimization of their parking. And with over 1 billion parking spaces in the US, each driver is spending around 17 hours a year wasting gas, time, putting extra CO2 emissions out per vehicle. Now, current solutions are just not cutting it. They're either inaccurate, expensive, or they are just outdated. But what if both drivers and parking lot operators can benefit from an AI data-centric system? Well, they can, and that's what we built. This is Joppa's mobile application, where we deliver real-time parking availability straight to your phone, so you don't have to waste time getting stressed looking for parking anymore. And this is Joppa's management console, where we make our client's operation a data-driven operation. Now, we use these sensors, we put them on every space, or at the entrance and exits of parking lots. These sensors are all battery operated, so it makes our whole operation completely wireless. Now, we know when a vehicle gets there, for how long, where it's at, and when it leaves. So we aggregate this data and put it onto our management console, where we pretty much streamline the whole management process, from enforcement, maintenance, all the way down to just managing the parking lot. All on a simple and easy to use interface, where we're running it through AI to do analysis reports with it. Now, market's huge. We all know it. The fastest growing segment of the parking market is smart parking, growing 30% year over year. Now, this potential market is valued at $131 billion, and it's plagued with a bunch of inefficiencies that Joppa can solve. Now, the value that we bring to our customers is we bring a complete wireless system that we can install in a breeze. Accuracy, nobody can touch us on accuracy, and we bring affordability to our customers too. And that's why we stand out from the rest. There's other competitors in the space, but nobody is as accurate, can install as fast as us, or is better than us. There was another thing, I forgot it, sorry. And our go-to-market strategy is pretty simple. We want to focus on verticals that have high capital but low data-driven insights. Universities, hospitals, stadiums, municipalities, airports, amusement parks. We want to get our customers by using a strong B2B presence with our outreach on digital campaigns, really focusing on the ROI for our customers. And our business model is really easy too. We're simply charged $120 per space per year. And remember, it costs $30,000 to $40,000 just to build a parking space from scratch. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. Now, ever since we launched in 2019, you can see we're helping large leading organizations solve their parking problems. With a team of 5, we're nearing $1 million in recurring revenue with 0% churn. All of our customers have either expanded their initial installation or renewed their contract for multiple years. And as you can see, we have around 75% of the UC's universities in the UC system. We're already expanding to stadiums, municipalities, and hospitals. Gillette Stadium, I'll give this example real quick. They called me I want to say about a month ago, and said, hey, we love your product. Can you install before our next home game? I said, when's your next home game? And they said, this weekend. I was like, we'll try. We got it up and running with them. We sent someone out, got it up and running in a day, and they're loving the system. Talked about it internally, had a couple meetings with them, and they said, we're loving it, and the numbers are great. We recently did a case study with the city of Vacaville, actually, pretty nearby here, where the city council was pressuring them to build a new parking structure because their community members were complaining that they cannot find parking. After using our data for 6 months, we came to realize that the utilization in the city of Vacaville was only up to 63%. So it caused them they decided not to build a parking structure and optimize their spaces. And we saved them over $60 million for using our system, which only cost them $300,000. Now, the way we've been scaling is we have a modular design for our installation. We give the option to our customers if they want to install or have us install. Our current reach is already showing that it's working throughout the US. We're in Texas, in New York, and Massachusetts, sorry, yeah, with the Gillette Stadium. And another way that our team of 5 is closing 2.3 million in revenue this year is because we have partnerships and resellers. Siemens and Walker Telecom and other contractors are reselling our system, where we don't even give them a discount, they mark it up and do a bunch of market research for us so we know what we can sell our system for more. Oh, this is really tiny. This is our plan over 4 quarters, or 5 quarters. This quarter, we're launching our AI and machine learning, where we're putting analysis through with AI. Next quarter, we want to expand on university stadiums and really collaborate with our partnerships to put us out to market. Q2, focus on automakers. You know, smart or autonomous driving and smart parking too. And then start looking into other technologies like camera-based technologies to still do what we're doing. Now, you can see our projections. By 2028, we should be around 25 million ARR recurring revenue. These are very modest projections here, but it correlates with the scale of our sensor deployment too. Now, this is the team behind smart parking. We've all been professional parkers since we were 16, so we have a lot of experience behind this. Myself, I'm also on the Mayor's Technology Council for Sacramento and also co-founded an accelerator at UC Davis called Plasma. My amazing co-founder, he's been a data scientist for top companies such as Amazon and Tesla. And my sales team is on fire. I mean, they're closing big brand names. We're raising $2 million right now. We already have $850K committed on this seed round on a 12 million post-money cap valuation. This is to help us scale our company. We have 0 churn, so we want to keep scaling on what we're doing. We want to finish our operations here in California and Texas, start moving to other states that really need it, like Florida and New York. We want to expand on our new SaaS model where we give the hardware for free and just give them an annual SaaS. And we have a new strategy on EV charging infrastructure that I can get into. So if you're ready to start parking smarter and stressing less, you're going to have to come talk to us. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Start with the EV charging idea you have, because that's a lot of what people are talking about. That's also a collection of assets that are poorly utilized.
Yes.
So what are you thinking about there?
Yes, EV charging, there's a lot of fraud behind EV charging right now. People are parking in spaces that aren't even an electric vehicle, or people are done charging but not moving their cars. These EV charging systems can only tell you when power is running through it. With the Java system, now we can combat that fraud. We can tell you, hey, someone's parked here, no power is running through it, violation. Hey, someone's parked here, power is moving, no violation, that means it's running there. So we're doing actually a big expansion with SMUD, outfitting all their EV chargers with the Java system and really helping out what turnover within EV infrastructure and everything.
Great presentation, Matthew. Are you at Sac State right now? Are they a customer?
I'm right here now, I'm just kidding. No, Sac State, where's Jeff Deerking? Jeff Deerking is the parking director.
Okay.
We were doing a project with them, but the original director, Tony Lucas, actually just got moved to UCLA, which now we're doing a project with UCLA, and then we're trying to get Jeff Deerking to do a project with us.
This parking was a pain, I'm not even going to tell you where I parked. What's the friction when you're selling? What are you running into? I mean, it seems like just a great value proposition deal. I mean, there's got to be some rub, right? Somewhere.
It's more of, I would say, getting their budgetary constraints in order. So our selling time is June, July, when our clients, municipalities, universities are rebudgeting, getting their money ready for next year. Also, smart parking is pretty new, so it's more of education, letting them know. But I mean, once they get their eyes on the console, it sells itself.
What's the sales cycle?
We're still trying to really identify it. It's been anywhere between 2 months to a year. So big gap, but yeah, we're pushing it. I want to say conservative, maybe 6 months. But with what we're doing to push our sales cycle up, partnering with these universities, they're all piggybacking off each other's contracts, not only in California, but throughout other states too.
What's the contract duration?
3 or 5 year terms.
3 to 5 year terms. And then when did you start selling?
2019.
Okay. So everyone's read up, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we have 0% churn, and all of our customers have renewed or expanded since then.
Okay. Overall, I thought you did a great job. I mean, I might add some advisors if you have them on your team slide, just because the team is young. Might want to, you know, we don't want to see just young whippersnappers at it. We want to see some older folks in there too that have some experience in there.
Yeah, I'm the oldest on the team.
Oh, there you go. Overall, great job.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that my only piece of feedback is around the AI piece. I think unless it's really central to your business today, it runs more reputational risk to put it in there than to not. And it sounds like it's kind of an experimental feature today to do the reporting. So I think there was like one slide where it's like your positioning slide and it had like your tagline, and I think AI powered was in there, and I was like, oh man, like don't do that. Like put it in later, and if you're going to talk about the reporting feature, then mention like, hey, this is like, you know, made through generative AI, like no burden to our team, like talk about it there, but I wouldn't necessarily brand yourself as an AI company because I think it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you to say that today.
I agree with you. Talk to our VCs.
Hey, Matt.
Hi.
As you mentioned, I've seen you a variety of times at this point, so I'm not sure how many more questions I can think of. But one that I had is Park Mobile. You mentioned that they're a partner of yours. They're also a competitor. So can you kind of go into explaining the partnership and how they aren't this existential threat to your business?
Yeah, Park Mobile, great partner of ours. Our clients are having them integrate into our system because our clients want one mobile app, one system for people to find parking, and one app for them to pay for it. So if you open our mobile app, Park Mobile Pay by Phone is in there for the clients that we have in those. We don't really see them as a competitor. They are in the smart parking industry, but they deal with payments. We don't do anything with payments. So we bring a different source of data that they don't bring. And how this parking industry is happening or going is it's all about integrations. You know, giving that turnkey solution, whether it's to different people, but we're specializing in real-time parking availability and data, which they are not.
Got it. And then just kind of curious, why are you expanding into the East Coast instead of just continuing to just focus all resources into expanding along the West Coast and Central?
These are areas that are densely populated and need smart parking. They need the data really, really bad. Florida and New York, we identified it after talking to some customers that we're expanding to out there. It's just a need based on the industry, and we see that we can grow rapidly in those areas for a bigger need rather than areas that don't really have a big need for it.
Got it. That's what I figured. That was the question we had at the Stack Ankles.
Oh, really?
Might as well ask.
Okay.
Oh, no,
You're in jail.
Okay.
I probably
So I think high level, like great presentation, you hit all major points. I think for me, the only suggestion, and like take it or leave it, is I want to know a little bit more about what that big vision is for how you're going to grow.
Yes.
So, you know, you mentioned this EV concept, like whatever it is, it doesn't need to be that, but whatever it is, like you established really well that you know your customer really well, you know the problem solution really well, you have a great traction already, and you're moving forward. So like where are you moving forward to, and like how do you inject some energy into that?
Great. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I can definitely build on that for sure.
Am I not in jail anymore? Okay. Very generous, gracious of you. Thank you so much.
Depends on what you say.
Well, I mean, I think the first time I saw your pitch was in like 2019, so I also don't have like a huge and everything, so just a couple of like little things. So first, who is your competition then? Like, who's actually doing this?
They're called 11X and Frog Parking, 4 winners, but yeah.
Okay. And
sorry, great companies, I guess.
you're not wrong about the name. And what exactly is your differentiator? Is it the hardware? It's like is Frog the one with the sensors?
Yeah, Frog has sensors in the ceilings. Even with 11X, they do sensors on the ground. Our installation process is a lot smoother and quicker. With 11X sensors, you still have to drill them into the ground to adhere them. For us, we just glue them to the ground, so there's no you don't mess up the concrete or the asphalt at all. We even ran into an RFP that we bid on the other day, and 11X was there, and they couldn't bid on it because they have to drill into the ground for those. So. And then also, I mean, when it comes out to installation, we can do a parking structure in a day and a half with 1,500 spaces. Frog Parking can do it in 6 months.
I do admit that is compelling, obviously. So I'm curious, like, how much that makes you a hardware company versus a software company. I asked it a little bit more broadly because it's actually a couple things. This actually relates to what Brooke was talking about with AI, because I agree with that, except that one of the things that you mentioned on the fine print, I think, on the roadmap, was that some of the AI was for like predictive pricing. So like do predictive analytics and then fluctuate pricing based on demand, which is sort of like a natural evolution of this if you're making a software play, but much more of a natural evolution of this if you're handling payments, right? Because then you're also changing, like your bottom line changes as you can scale this pricing, but you're not doing that. And so, and like Park Mobile is doing the payments, so like I'm trying to situate you with regard to the competitors. And so yeah, so that's, I guess, just to oversimplify it, like, is it hardware or software? Like, what's going on there?
We're a software company. We're a B2B SaaS software company that uses hardware to give the data to our customers, and we are the face of it. So when it comes to like Park Mobile, oh man, it was off the tip of my tongue right now, but I just blanked. But yeah, Park Mobile is a great company. No, I'm just kidding.
And their name is not nearly as bad as Frog.
Yeah,
So.
it just, I don't know where I'm going with this one. I apologize.
No, that's cool. So that does make sense. We can talk about that.
Oh, the payment piece.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I mean, they don't have, so even with the payment piece, we can help the cities with, I mean, I don't think I should say surge pricing, but we know the utilization of different lots, so they can dynamically change the pricing, even with our predictive analytics that we're working on too.
Yeah, and I get that, and I can see the value for them. It's just harder for you to like increase your price, like to actually capture as much of that value that you're creating, right? Because essentially, like just proportionally, it doesn't seem it's going to be really hard to standardize pricing for something like that. Whereas if you were capturing a share of the transaction, then you could proportionally capture the increase in value that you're doing. So
well, I mean, I guess I forgot to mention, we are partnered with PaySafe Group, or we get a 30% rev share on every parking transaction. So I don't know, I mean, but that's when we started launching the mobile app, the payments for the mobile app.
Cool. Last question, super direct. What's your customer acquisition cost right now?
Oh, it's cheap. It's like $1,600. It's like nothing, pretty much. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now it's time for Thermashade. So Diana, if you could come up.
Am I on?
There you go.
It's very bougie, isn't it? It's super bougie. I was. Also, the tip is like super fat, and it just dulls as you use it. It's not. Yeah, it's.
This is the real fish that you want today.
This is. I'm just waiting for like the killer mechanical pencil. Maybe Diane will help me out.
You are the facility manager for the Empire State Building. Yet every day you struggle with the air conditioning without a solution. No matter what you do, you may be looking for the wrong problem. So, I'm going to start over. I'm going to start over. So, yeah. No. So you are the facility manager of the Empire State Building. Yet every day you struggle with high costs of air conditioning. You don't know how to fix the problem. So
good.
What do your tenants think of that?
Um, So every day, thousands of you are the facility manager for the Empire State Building. But every day, facility managers struggle with the high costs of energy. Yet, what they're not looking for the right problem. So,
Don't worry about the script. Just tell us what you know best, which
Yeah.
is your business. We know nothing about your business, so
What's
just
the right
tell us what you
solution?
know.
Okay,
can I-
Try
can
to
I-
advance the slide.
yeah. Well, no, so there's a bunch of overlap.
Yeah.
So the problem is the high cost of energy in air conditioning. So facility managers struggle with the high cost of air conditioning every day. But they're never going to be able to solve the problem because they're looking for the wrong solution. So what we're
Go to the next slide.
So, anyways, so I'm Diana Eastman, creator, CEO, and creator of the Thermoshade material. So excited to be here with you tonight to share with you how you can create comfort and energy savings and comfort inside your home or office. So what we usually do is create a roller shade to put in every window. Maybe not this window. So we create the shade, put it in the window, and it reflects heat. This is actually what it would look like if it were in the building. So what's important about the material is that it reflects heat. So in the summer, it reflects high amounts of solar radiation. In the winter, it reflects heat back into the room. So when we say leave it rolled down, it has to be rolled down 24/7. So it's working constantly. But the point is that it's very transparent. So the shade is on the right and the window is on the left. So this is kind of a unique proposition within the shading industry. So this is actually a view of the outside view of the Empire State Building. And the video is not playing, and we were going to have a, should I get that to play? But anyways, so this is an actual shade that's looking out of the Empire State Building. And so this is how transparent the shade is. So now we've just fixed the Empire State Building. And so when so as an energy efficiency expert, I would go to people's houses and just was very frustrated that I didn't have an answer for windows. So after 5 years of research and about $75,000 worth of investment, I created the Thermoshade material. So what we are now certified in space technology, and we're also in the Berkeley Lab database, which is used by energy modelers to predict heating, cooling, and how they can save energy. So our first pilot was with the city of Encinitas. And so Bill, our building analyst, was just, for years, his employees had been complaining of high heat problems. And so once we finished the project, so before this is how his staff lived. Once we finished the project, actually all his staff, all of a sudden just started applauding. We were just shocked, we were thrilled. But the problem was that whole time, the heat gate at the windows was just hammering them. So what had happened is when we cut the heat at the windows, the air conditioning just virtually stopped. So they were thrilled, opened up the whole space, and this is actually what it looks like in the window. So the left-hand side is the shade and the right. So daylight was winning, and Bill was thrilled, and but we didn't have any numbers for that. So then SMUD was nice enough to do an energy project where the initial deep energy retrofit was actually the 25 heat pumps that were associated with the whole building. And at the end of the study, none of the ladies were happy. So they were all at the windows, and they couldn't really care less about energy savings. And so SMUD was nice enough to put the shades on the CEO's office, and they did actually calculations, and the shade, so this is the shade, should I press again? This is actually the shade installed in the window. And the actual savings just for that one heat pump was 29%. So this is the visibility of the shade, and this is what it looked like before. So hotels are going to be kind of a good market for us because so our commercial projects were sort of gaining momentum, and then COVID hit and the market dropped out. So hotels seem to be full, and so we're going to pursue the hotel market. And we've done studies within hotels showing over 50% energy savings. So we just closed a hotel the other day with a text which was submitting to the owner. And what happened is he really didn't care about the energy cost, but the price point of the material is reasonable enough that when we presented this, so the material is in the left of the picture because it cuts glare. And when we presented, he said, well, how much does your product cost? And I said this, and he goes, well, that's fine, just put it in, because it was the same price point as those curtains that he already had. So that's important as a marketing tool, because if you're going to be, a high-priced material, then you've got a different problem. So basically, the commercial buildings, so we start with how many commercial buildings there are, then, the obtainables in the U.S. market, 4,500 hotels in California, and then we're, 180 are here in Sacramento. So as far as what one customer would be worth to us, so this is just one hotel. The average is 194 windows. You've got 300 in average size. They're all a little different. Average size, $350. So each customer or a hotel would be worth, $67,000 or $68,000. So the market, the 30,000 foot view is all these people are looking for a way to decarbonize, to lower their footprint. But what we need to do is focus on the facility managers, which I totally blew it first, but that's really our go-to people because they control, they know their building, they know their space, and they get the complaints. So we do the hotels, but what we really need to do is just basic boots on the ground. We've got to get a sales force together. We've got to get our marketing out. We've got to go to shows, just the standard what you do in your business. And because it's so unique, we really need to push that message. But of course, offices fell apart with COVID, but once those come back, those are great. Now, federal and state and schools, this material is excellent for schools because you can basically double the efficiency in a window, and schools are always on a budget. So this would be a really neat way for them to improve their bottom line. Federal and state, so all these things on the left, and utilities included, just have longer runways. But there's so many bodies in hotels right now that that's going to be our go-to. Then what we need to do is create an app. So if we give the tools to the facility manager, what we could do using the Lawrence Berkeley Lab data is to build in how much energy they could save with our material, as well as what it would cost, and if they wanted to scale up the project, they could do that too. So that would be one of the advantages. So as far as our competition, it's huge. So there are two, you've heard of 100 of us, everybody has, and they're now doing commercial. Mecco Systems is more on the architectural side, you may never have heard of them. And of course, there's the tint market. Now, interestingly, when we go into a building with a product, they usually already have tint and window coverings. So this is a third product that could be added, and as you saw, it was very transparent. So, and the reason I know, so back to that database that I was talking about, Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and also for the app. So they take samples from all these companies of the material and they put it in a database, and then you can go through and just compare. So according to that database with all the companies, that our material has the highest total visibility, solar reflection, which is what we specialize at, that's why we get such great numbers, and reflection in infrared spectrum. So back to our Empire State Building, because there's so much data on the Empire State Building, if they had put our material in their building, they could be saving $440,000 every year. So, and a thought that I'd like to wrap up with is that we're experiencing, we see and feel the effects of climate today, and the product is really sort of more relevant every day. But there's also so many underserved people that need some way to feel comfortable in their space. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Then just a question, I mean, it's fairly clear that windows are a huge problem with energy transfer across them. Everybody's dealing with that, double pane windows, low emissivity glass, all of that. And shades, and window coverings, and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the shades that I've seen, when you pull them down, they're ugly. And they block a lot of the light. So what's unique about your solution? Why do people do better if they install your solution versus the ones that have been out there for years?
So as I referred to, and tried to refer to. So the pictures that you're seeing are what the shade is in the window. So it's that transparent. And so, as I mentioned too, that so many of the buildings already have existing shades, so you really need another shade because it's like a one-way mirror. So during the day, it's opaque from the outside, but then on the inside, it's very transparent. So did that answer your
So basically what you're saying, because of the transparency, this is a shade that people leave down and it actually functions.
Correct. And so, so that's why it's been difficult to talk to the utilities, because that's a very foreign term with them. So when you can use something, when something goes up and down, that's usually a red flag. So I'm not sure the utilities are ready for this. It would be great because it is so effective and it's easy and it's simple and everybody who sees it is thrilled. But yes, it's very attractive. So you can add it to anything, anywhere.
All right, cool. So you and I have talked about ThermoShade a few times before, so I came into this with some knowledge, which is great. I do have a number of questions, most of which are probably easier to take offline, although I imagine some of them will get asked here. A couple of things. So first, you stumbled a little bit in the beginning. I don't know if you remember. And
No.
that
Not at
excellent.
all.
No, actually, embrace that. Couple things. So remind me, I might forget, but I have a few tips that'll help with
Yes.
all of that. As somebody who does speak professionally. And then also, I fully offer to give you a little pick-me-up about times I fell on my face a lot harder than that. There's
It's not possible. Not possible.
Oh, okay.
You got put on timeout tonight.
I did.
He's turning red.
I did.
Turning red.
So I did get put on timeout tonight. But seriously, there's just a couple small little things,
Yes.
Like little tips you can put in your
Yes.
cap that'll
Please,
really help
please,
out.
please, please.
So ask me afterward. So that's cool. The big question actually that I have, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the numbers. So you said that for the average hotel is like something like 180 or 190 windows, and there's like something like $67,000 installation cost
Right.
for that, or I'm assuming that's just
So
the
that was
shades.
the end. So in other words, all I'm doing, so right now, we don't have a lot of traction except this new contract with the hotel and a lot of low overhead because we don't have a sales team right now. So our margin is pretty high. It's like 65%. So what I was showing to you is what the value of one customer would be, and then obviously we would hope to get 10 customers that year. You know, we'd set a yearly goal of 10,000.
So was that 67 or 64 or whatever, okay?
67, right.
Okay. That 67 and change, is that the 65% margin, therefore the cost to the hotel was 50% higher than that?
No, the cost to the hotel is that,
Okay, got it.
67.90.
And then 65% margin, okay.
Right.
Okay, cool. And then is that just the materials for the shade, or is that also installation?
So with that, the installation is included.
Okay, so all in, like, end to end, it's gonna cost them less than 70 grand for their,
Right.
for the 100, okay.
Right.
And then you mentioned the value created at the Empire State Building, which, well, interesting, isn't super comparable to this. So what's the amount saved by this hotel every year?
So that's a great question, and that's where the app could come in handy. Because hotels, as you know, have multiple rooms. What we have done with studies, prior hotels, is because they make great labs, because you could do next to, you know, room to room. And our results have been about 51% savings on each room, because, you know, you've got those individual little little deals. So, and those are easy to measure. So the amount of heat that is cut from that is usually 50%. And so, since I plugged it all, anyways, you didn't have that information. But
Well, even still.
50%
like to ballpark it though, because I'm trying to get to something, like, I get what you're saying,
Yes,
that's
yes,
valuable
yes,
and awesome and
yes.
cool for the future, but
Yes.
like, you sold a hotel on this,
Right,
right? Okay, so they must have seen some rough back of napkin math in their head to say that this pencils out for them, so.
Not really. So that was what was unusual. Yeah, I was like, and this
Which
guy's
way would
got.
pass the microphone?
Yeah, no, it was amazing because I was, had this meeting and the guy's busy and he was the owner, luckily, and he's got a few hotels. And he's like, I didn't really want to hear about the energy. And all he wanted to know about was the cost. I was like, okay. Well, so I already measured this window. Obviously, I set this in here and I said, okay, this is what it's going to cost. And he goes, well, that's the same amount as those little, fluffy burners. Fine, I'll take your stuff. So it was just interesting that the price point was good for him, which is good to know. And second, he didn't really care about the energy. I'm like, whoa, wait, no, I want to tell you about. So back to your question about how much will it save him in energy, I gave him those numbers, but you would, it's hard to know because they've each got, upgraded equipment and
So why did he buy?
I don't know. He needed curtains anyway. So this is a new hotel. So it's in lieu of those little transparent shades.
Yeah.
Right, the shears.
Okay, all right.
That actually leads into just a clarifying question, and I apologize if I missed this earlier, but the shade, is it transparent from the outside, so that it doesn't provide any privacy?
So during the day, it does. So if we go
Okay.
back to this, the sort of the way back to the hotel. So that is actually what it looks like in this environment. So you get
Okay.
privacy. So that's why the shears during the day with the hotel guy.
So it acts like a sheer curtain?
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
cool.
But actually better during the day. Now, like a two-way mirror, it flips.
Right, at night.
Which is the same with shears too, because you really need the second. So that's why he's like, oh yeah, fine, we're done here, I'll just get them. Well, it's like, okay, the hotel guy.
That may not be the major way you make your sales, but.
I know, I text him a picture and he says, fine, I mean, I could do that all day, I guess.
So that's helpful because it helps me understand that it replaces the shear
Yes.
in both functions that shears normally play, as opposed to just the heat function.
Correct.
So whereas like all these windows, like you're mentioning, a lot of windows have the film and some other kind of covering.
Right.
We never pulled these other coverings down, ever.
Yes, and because the tint is super dark, but
Yeah.
no, why would you?
So anyway,
Yeah. So just as since I'm standing here and you're asking the question, so what we've done because we haven't had the resources to go energy model every building. It's almost impossible. No one wants to pay for it. So what we've done is studies of, we can actually measure how much heat comes in and how much we can reduce.
Mhm.
So I can tell you that these windows, I can probably cut the incoming heat by 10 degrees in this building. And that's a lot. That's a lot. It is. So.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm really interested to know is what you need from the audience. What do you need from us? What's your ask?
So I had that slide, but I knew that this would be, your input if I'd given you the information you needed.
You did give us a lot of information.
I will hopefully never go through this again. But so.
Well, I hope that's not true.
Well, you've all been so nice. And I can see your pain. You're like, oh my God. So I think really, boots on the ground, going to conferences, really saturating the market with something that is so different yet so similar. Everyone understands the concept, and now we need to push the energy savings. Getting really experienced salespeople and doing that is
Yeah,
what
great.
we're looking at.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, and then my last thought is just price sensitivity, because if this is truly a replacement for a shear, and it's far less than a shear, but you're providing additional benefits, I wonder if you could charge more for it. It's just a thought.
Yeah, and that's what JDM also, because we briefly spoke and talked about that, and it's like, oh, you gotta do a premium. Well, it's sort of a personal choice, but you're financial people, so let's make money. And so where I'm competing is like that hotel guy. It was simple for him. So where I stand as far as these other people, so Hunter Douglas is, I'm more than 10, less than 100 Douglas shade. So that's where I compete as far as, but yes, I could up my price, but it's just a different sales, to me, it's just a,
I don't know, I'm just asking.
yeah, so that's where we are with our price point, and we certainly could be a premium, and maybe we will go there. It's almost like I want to have two, so if I did sort of projects, and there is a lot of government money out there, if I did a lot of projects that were multi-family housing, things like that, which I'm really interested in doing, and maybe the government would subsidize that, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe I'd have a price point for those kind of, and then premium for, I don't know if that's really sick. Because everyone kind of finds out, but that's where my price point is now.
Well, this is super interesting. I think that this is a very interesting technology, and that it's a little bit of a blue space, right? Like, I think you've hit on it a couple times, that this is something new. It's not exactly a shade, it's not exactly a tint, and the use case is a little bit different. So you're going to struggle with having to educate your customers and having to kind of create a segment for yourself. I think the hotels thing makes a little bit more sense now that I know that it's not transparent both ways, because before I was like, well, this doesn't really replace like a privacy shade, but now I understand. But it does leave me wondering a little bit about the ICP, like the ideal customer, because when I first heard this, I was like, oh, this is great for like that beautiful office view that people pay $1 million for, and then it's too hot, so they have to like close it up, right? Like that's what I think naturally seems like maybe the ideal
That was
customer.
what my thought. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you, Brooke. And so I appreciate that, because the commercial market is perfect for this.
Yeah.
And the point is, is that all those window offices
can't use
radiate heat.
Mhm.
And so that's what throws off your system
Right.
for the whole day, for
Right.
that facility manager.
Right, and I think that that's a pain point that a lot of people, probably people you're going to be pitching to in foreign office buildings, can resonate with, right?
Yes.
Like every conference room, I think is like this.
Yes.
But it leaves me like wondering like why hotels? Like it seems a little bit odd, and maybe it makes a little bit more sense now that it's like, hey, like it's an easy thing that new hotels are already gonna have to put this in. It's a switch for them. It helps us get off the ground. But I do kind of wonder, like, is that the real opportunity? And maybe it makes sense to talk about, like, this is our beachhead market, like, we're testing this out, like, it's an early, easy win, and while we build up a sales force to, like, really attack, like, the commercial space, something like that, I think is a helpful narrative to, like, I think both get people on board with your plans to scale the company, but also, like, get the vision of this, like, new type of technology where it fits best.
And that's right, and those are brilliant points, especially your point about every person, they usually get the material right away. So the architects are like, yeah, and then after the meeting, they go, can I get that on my house?
Yeah.
Yes, but no, we need to put it on your projects.
Right.
So yes to that, so. Yeah. So also, what's interesting about the school, if we have a second, so schools, as I mentioned, they're always on a budget, need inexpensive efficiency measures. But there's also safety, now that you've talked about the transparency on that. So there's a whole company that just makes solid shades, and they have this whole system when there's someone running across the yard, and then they drop this whole thing for security, and the alarms go off, and I'm thinking, so what if they had my shade in there? Well, the teacher's standing there, they can see the park running across the yard,
Sure.
but the person can't see in.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then, so there's multiple levels, just
Right,
like
and there's
you're
so many
ferreting it out.
applications. It's just
Right,
figuring
it's
out where it makes
mind-blowing,
sense to go
right.
first and how you communicate that. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
right, so the hotels are kind of the lowest hanging fruit, because everybody is in hotels right now, everything's booming, you know.
Right, and maybe the way that you spin the story with this easy win here is, well, it was such an easy win because it's a new construction, and what I'm doing, you know, is both accomplishing what he was already gonna put in, plus these other benefits, and you don't need to tell us that, like, you didn't seem to hear about that, right? But just even like getting projections around like this many new hotels are gonna be built, and you could build a pretty compelling story around just that, I think, if that makes sense.
Thank you, yes, I appreciate that.
So I thought your value proposition was pretty unique. I wish that was just right up front though, because I feel like when you started introducing yourself, you started going to the origin of the idea. You were an energy consultant. I feel like you could have dove a little bit further into that to kind of put yourself as a, you know, authority figure in this space.
Yes.
But right from the get-go, I was just thinking you could have had a slide of shades, tint, new solution. Here's the old solution I used to see. This is why I'm frustrated with this. Here's the brand new one. And here's the unique value proposition here. And maybe I'm still battling with this. I mean, are they all compatible together? Does one replace all of them?
So when I said that usually when we go into a job, they already have shades, just like these shades, whatever kind, and then tint on the windows, exactly like this. So the problem is that they're probably still hot, or when you go over by those windows where the building is, and the ACs are always on and nobody likes that. So, so this goes in addition to. So yes, so I am competitive, but I'm also complementary. And really what may happen if I got some traction, or when I get some traction, and this is sort of something that is a threat to the larger, you know, there might be licensing opportunities, there might be, you know, they just want to buy the whole thing and get rid of it, I don't know. You know, that's because this is nothing that they offer. So back to that slide, it's just totally different. So it is unique, and everyone says, oh no, it's not unique, it's, you know, nothing is unique. Yes, it is. So it's unique within that billion-dollar industry, if that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, you know, food for thought, just on the go-to-market strategy, I'm almost thinking about a window like reseller, shades reseller, going for the one-to-many relationship and hitting the residential houses and having them sell it on your behalf. I know, I just really, you know, when you start pitching this, I'm just viewing this in my house.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I'm taking all this out.
No, just like the
actually see my
architects, they're
windows.
like, yeah, in my
And
house.
there's probably less friction going that way, but I don't know what installation looks like, I don't know what stock looks like,
So
so.
this is brilliant, and that's actually where I started. So it's sort of been this evolution, as it is with most, you know, where you fit the market. But the problem is with, so Hunter Douglas is like the Amazon of blinds. So they set up galleries and they sell, or they also include a contract that says you will not be selling any other product. So they kind of have the market on that, even though I've approached, you know, other people and, you know, individual mom and pops, which you think, oh, you can sell a new product and this would be great to every other customer that you've already been. So this is like an upsell. But that's not the case. So that is very much needed, but a tough market without a lot of contract breaking.
Got it, okay.
So that's why I'm going, and of course, in the commercial market, you've just got lots of glass, and that's where you've got all the heat gain. Because that's
It
what.
makes sense, I mean, big game hunting, people look at operational expenses, I know hotels, you know, they're keeping an eye on that stuff, so.
Also, just like all of these entities, they're all looking for ways to best their bottom line for net zero carbon emissions, and they're also looking to brag about what they're doing differently in there. So the hotels are really pretty aggressive about what they see as the new thing and what we're doing versus that. What's interesting about the hotels too, so the Best Western is fairly small as hotels go, but they have 2,000 hotels in the US and then another 3,000 in Europe, so they're not that small, but they're franchises, so you have to go to every single one. Whereas when you get to the larger ones, IMG, Holiday Inn, all over the planet, you have one decision maker at the top. So if you could get that person on board, they would say to the rest of the industry, tomorrow you need to put these shades in every hotel. So there's that kind of interesting market possibility there.
Do you have any IP or patents on this technology?
I don't. So it's kind of complicated. I mean, I've never have had any, I actually have had a lot of advice from people in this industry. So the material is actually a film. So it's multi-layers of all sorts of good stuff. Because I ran with it and did these pilots, there's sort of a runway on the length of time that you can have a product that's in the market before it kind of expires. But I haven't had someone spend the money to really dig in, to say, no, you really need to sew. The idea was to get in the market and just go, be the Kleenex, as it were. Get the name recognition, and because there's very few factories that can actually make this material. Like only one in the United States. So it's highly specialized. Not that someone, if they were really motivated, could do it, but
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Well, I got a couple of questions, but I think we're probably bumping up against time, so I'll just stick with some quick feedback. Number one, I would, and I think this might have been mentioned, but just to hammer it home, I definitely would have a leadership slide with your picture and a couple of bullet points saying, hey, here's my expertise, here's my background, here's why I am the woman for this job and the leader for this company. I would also move the raise slide before your contact details. It's just kind of a personal preference, because at the end, if you have any contact details, I like to use that as kind of or I always recommend that it's kind of a bookmark or a bookend at the very end. But then right before that, kind of have your raise and your ask. Also, financial projections will be very helpful to see as an investor, so we kind of know, okay, how you think you can ramp this up. And then I think that the customer ROI would be helpful to know, and it sounds like you kind of already have an idea of what that data would be. Like the Empire State Building being the 400,000, I don't know how much it would cost to outfit the Empire State Building necessarily, so it would be probably better for me to understand, okay, this is kind of the return on investment for whoever I'm selling to. And then also, okay, well, I have to ask one question. Could this be a film solution? And then you mentioned that it is just layers of film. I mean, could you just slap this onto a window, license it out, and call it a day?
So it gets too complicated in this kind of, but the kind of energy that we're dealing with is not a visible, it's the infrared spectrum. So it's a kind of what they call cold energy. So it's the energy that hits your skin when you go out in the sun, but which is different than visible light. So when the energy comes in through the glass, if this product, like a tint, gets hot, that's why tint only works for, the first day. It's like, oh yeah, that's fine. And then the next day they're like, no, it's still hot. So this actually blocks and reflects the energy out before it comes in the room. So it has to be separate, and you can't touch the glass. So it's in the form of a film, but not in contact. Is that?
Got it. Yeah. And then, okay, so two more pieces of feedback.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yes.
It would be nice to know if this is kind of a major CapEx project where all the hotels need to, do a complete refurb, in which case you're probably not able to really sell to every hotel until they're doing that refurb, or if it's more of like a maintenance project where, hey, we got to change the shears in these rooms, and so we can roll it into a maintenance budget, which is probably going to be a little
easier for a lot of people.
Exactly right, and I would go with the maintenance and actually out of nowhere because they can keep the shares. So in other words, not every hotel is being built, and this was a unique opportunity, I thought, because I didn't know you had a bunch of hotels going in. But it would be an aftermarket retrofit. Just like here, if they wanted the product, it would be a retrofit product because the material is so thin. And I had samples to give each of you, which I will, that it can go anywhere. So that opens up, when we were looking at that market space, like, wow, any window can have this in it. So it's kind of a huge market, so I have to start somewhere. And so that's why we focused on the hotels for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so 5 very interesting companies. We at CleanStart started this whole effort in 2005 to build this region into a clean tech powerhouse by getting more and more companies launched and successful and profitable. And so it's very heartening to me to see that the people have come through the various stages. We've worked with them with our CEO crash course, we've been working with them on coaching and mentoring, and now they're looking for some serious money and have shown us some serious traction and good ideas in terms of what the value proposition, product market fit is. So anyway, round of applause again for everybody who presented tonight. And we look forward to having you back at our next Spotlight event that'll be in 2024. Other things you want to say?
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Of course, I hope you enjoyed Global Entrepreneurship Week. Tomorrow, I believe the Better Business Bureau is putting on an event outside of the grid. Also, I want to thank our panelists for coming and giving feedback to all of our presenters. Thank you very much. Good feedback and a good diverse response from investors, because you never know what investors might want, and they all have different things, but they're all willing to give you feedback and connect. So remember that. I want to thank our sponsors, SMUD, Fresno State, Chico Start, River City Bank, Bloom Co-working, which you can find us at most of the week, and the California Mobility Center. I also want to say a big thank you to the sponsors of the event and the ones who enabled us to host it, and the ones who were able to host us here, the Carlsen Center. Thank you very much, Jesse, Cameron, and she's the stand-in for Cameron tonight, and who's out at the E3 event. And that didn't come out bad, but we have a large network of supporters, and I would like to thank all of them. So, thank you very much. And
if you're ever inclined, we do take donations. So you can go to our website and get your name added to the Hall of Fame there. All right, thank you very much for attending tonight. Great session. That is fantastic. Can I grab 2 or 3 of you for just a minute? Sure. Come back here. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you a connection request. Yeah, makes sense.
The most recent one, we do friction. Yes. And friction died. Yeah, 3D printing so hard, and we were